The Timeshift.
Hello and welcome to The Timeshift. I'm Chris Hall and this week I'm looking at the latest episode of Class entitled Bravish Heart. Now this video is going to be spoiler heavy because this is a review of the aforementioned episode. So if you haven't seen this episode and don't want it spoiled, it's best to switch this video off now. Okay, everybody ready, everybody geared up, let us dive into the Bravish whatever. Okay, so here we are with the 5th episode of this witty, wonderful, brilliant and amazing Class Doctor Who spin-off thing, and I really don't give a flying fuck anymore. I have spent the better part of 20 minutes now trying to get this review up and running, but I have nothing really to say about the episode because it is wholly unremarkable. It's not bad, it is not bland, it is not boring, but there's nothing within it of value. Nothing of value lies therein. Here be nothingness, not even monsters, not even an illustration of one. It's just plain uninteresting. To the left of the camera, I have an A4 sheet of paper filled with notes, filled with things I could be talking about by now, but I just don't have the will of mind or body to do so, because here we are again. It's the same problems week after week, whether it's Doctor Who or Torchwood or well, maybe not Torchwood, I've never seen it, but it's either Doctor Who or Class. We find ourselves talking about the exact same problems week after week, and I'm fucking sick of it. I honestly am. I've come to the conclusion now that Class really isn't this brave new contemporary spin-off that's about young adults in a Doctor Who universe and them dealing with the problems in front of them. No, it's just Doctor Who minus the Doctor and insert sex jokes and sex references here and there, because that's all it is. Because this episode could quite easily just fit into any bland midpoint within a Doctor Who series. It's an episode purely of setting up moral dilemmas and doing jack shit with them. It's setting up interesting ideas and taking them absolutely nowhere. It's characters getting themselves into situations, into problems that they maybe change physically or mentally, and then they're having no real connection or consequence of those actions. Everything happens happily in the end. It's a big happy ending. Nothing bad happened to any of our heroes. There was no threat to them of the whatsoever. Whether or not you like the main bad guy or not, nothing happened of any value. Just the illusion of threat and danger, because it's only ever an illusion. Our characters are never in a situation where they may die or they may be changed, maimed or murdered. The one time that we had some really genuinely seriously bad happening to one of our characters in the entire series was with Ram getting his leg chopped off, and magically Doctor just managed to have a robot leg for him. Great, fantastic, good. Any kind of development for that character on a physical level, blown to the wall out of convenience for the sake of shooting and jack shit out. This is just another Monster of the Week show with delusions of grandeur. That's all it is. That's all it will ever be, despite any kind of notion that this is set in a contemporary environment. Look, I'm sorry for the rant, but I'm just sick of it. I'm honestly bloody sick of it. Again, if it wasn't for this contrived reason for me wanting to do this vlog thing, I wouldn't be watching the show at all. This is an episode in which, as I thought it would be last week, it's just payoff, 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 payoff. The soonest we get any kind of idea, any kind of moral heart to the episode, anything that could be interesting, any kind of impact and execution and causality from that is just thrown away. The big, fantastic, genuinely interesting moment within this episode was with that box of souls that Prince Charlie and Miss Quill and Polish boyfriend man were all talking about, and mysterious head teacher who isn't Michelle Gomez. That was the most interesting part of this episode, and you know, they do jack shit about it. Prince Charlie is a fucking selfish prick. But we're supposed to relate to him. You're supposed to see him as some kind of hard, put-on-to character. Fuck off. He was quite happy to let humanity die just so that, you know, the legacy of my people will survive. Hey, guess what, arsehole? The legacy of your people still survives in the very fact that you're still alive. The same reason that you have no right to end up turning around and say, you know what, if I was to kill those people, that would be genocide and that would make me no better than the shadow people. Hey, guess what, arsehole? By letting the human race die, you are genociding them. You're taking a situation you could save and save the entire planet, and you say, I'm not going to do it because there's a chance, maybe, that maybe my people will be brought back to life. Hey, guess what, fuckface? These little alien monster bitey things are going to kill everyone on the planet, They're going to kill you, they're going to kill your boyfriend, they're going to take that big alien box thing with all the souls in it. Yeah, great job trying to save your alien species if you yourself are dead, jackass. Yes, having Miss Quill turning around to him and saying, yes, we can use these souls to get revenge against the shadow monsters. We can do that, yeah. And the debate of whether they can do that, whether or not he should take revenge on them or save the human race, that's an interesting thing, Who's he going to do? Well, of course he was always going to save the human race, but in the end of the day, he does nothing and lets someone else save the day for him. What if April never came back from this alien world? What if her powers didn't work on the petals? Guess what, arsehole? You've killed humanity. I hope you're fucking pleased. I hope the final few moments for you and your boyfriend are fantastic, because guess what? You're probably not going to have that long left. The one thing that I genuinely can have a discussion about with this show, there's two things that stick out to me. One is a technical thing. One is the intro sequence to this show, which I just find utterly obnoxious. And I can't watch it. I physically can't watch it. That's not like me saying, oh, I find the interest in the show like so bad it hurts my head or anything like that. No, it's about it physically makes me feel sick when I watch the opening sequence of the show, because it's just pulsing lights and flashes and weird shapes. It makes me feel sick watching it. It's like I'm getting motion sickness just sitting at my computer watching the fucking program. And the other thing that sticks out to me is it's an extension of what I said towards the end of the actual main meat of the review last time, which was there's a whole thing with April's mother. I just don't get it. I really don't get it. What does her gaining the ability to walk, what does that add to anything at all whatsoever? You can sit there and you can probably call me an SJW, whatever you want, but what's the point in giving a disabled character the ability to walk? What purpose does that have from a character point or a story point? What does that gain to anything or add to anything? I find it very, very troubling, that whole bit, the whole fact that you have a character who at the end of the episode herself says, I made peace with the fact that I can't walk. This was my life now. I made peace with that. I hate the fact that this is what has become of me, but that's life. That's how life works. But magically, because this is Doctor Who in another name, no bad things ever happen to anyone. She regains the ability to walk, even though she's still pretty much got to learn to walk again, just because. I find it desperately uncomfortable, because if there's no justifiable reason for curing her disability, then there's no point in her being disabled in the first place. If you're doing it just for the sake of representation, then you're supposed to keep that character pretty much the same way, otherwise you're not representing that demographic or that aspect of society. It makes no justifiable reason. The only other character you've had a similar kind of thing with was Ram. He lost his leg, then magically he gets the ability to walk again because they give him a robot leg. And the only real reason they did that was for the sheer convenience of them not having to siege out his leg or anything like that. With April's mother, she's probably never giving the show again, so what's the bloody point in doing this? What's the benefit to it? What's the knock-on effect of that? I find it troubling. I know that it's going to end up amounting to not thinking of the great scheme of things, but what's the bloody point in her being disabled in the first place? Is if in the first episode we really have her as a character, we get rid of that factor of herself. What's the point of it? What's the thrust of it? What's the comeuppance of it? Because otherwise it serves no purpose whatsoever, and the fact of her being disabled serves no purpose whatsoever. For a show that I find to be fairly average at the best of times, it don't half get me angry, but whatever, let us just try now and dive into the performance section, which is going to be desperately short. Let's talk about performances, and there is nothing of any real value for me to say about the performances. That's pretty much been the undercurrent for this entire episode. There's nothing of value therein. There's nothing of value for me to say about anything, because it's average. Everybody does the job that's required of them. No one really stood out to me on any foreseeable way, good or bad. They just did the job that they needed to do. That's it. That's all. The only worthwhile character moment within this was during the whole back and forth with the big box of souls, but even then, I found Prince Charlie to be such a unlikable fucker that I just have nothing really to take from that as being too interesting at all. We're supposed to relate to him, we're supposed to be sympathetic to him, but I just find him to be such an unsavoury fucker. It's hard not to. I find the more and more this series goes on, the more and more I dislike him, the more and more I get uncomfortable whenever he's on screen, and whether the whole aspect of him effectively having Miss Quill as a slave just keeps going on, and it makes me desperately uncomfortable that that's almost accepted for this show because of the fact that Miss Quill is an arsehole, and that's the only real worthwhile justification that they're giving for his actions to be justified. And I find it really all the more uncomfortable that in the first episode, to justify Miss Quill still being in the show, you have the Doctor holding up the missing poster of the teenager that died in the opening sequence, and that's the only real reason she's there. She's being punished by the Doctor for still being there because she did a nasty thing. How did she know that she did it? Oh, it's malice, jackass. Is a character that died as a result of being in proximity to her, not necessarily because of her actions. If we're to take that view of the Doctor, he'd be the person that we should avoid at all times, because think of just how many background characters have died as a result of him being there, or as a result of his actions, or the mere fact that he simply exists. How fucking hypocritical for him to do that. Look, I have very little to say about this show right now. I'm just so done with it that we may as well just go to the overview. What did I think of the episode as a whole? Well, the general feeling and general tone in my voice, I think you could kind of guess that I'm none too pleased with it. Again, because it's not a bad episode, it's just that there's nothing about the episode itself which is worthwhile. I have more and more problems with this show the more it goes on, and they're not getting resolved. I was asked on Twitter the other day, a friend of mine, Quinny, who you may remember from when I used to do, well, I still do student radio, but back when I did it at Frequency Radio, he was a co-host of mine, and he tweeted me to ask me, he's just seen the first episode and he wanted to know whether or not it's worth going forward with the show, whether it's worth persisting with it. And my answer to that is no. There's no real reason to keep watching the show beyond the first episode. Of course, if you liked the first episode, then fine, keep watching it, because you're probably getting more out of this show than I am. But if you're someone that watched the first episode and found it average, or you didn't like it, there's no point, because it doesn't get any better. We're more or less at the same level of quality that we are in the first episode. This is still Doctor Who, but Doctor Who by a different name. Take the Doctor out, add some sex jokes and some sex scenes, and that's all it is. That's all it is, and that's all it'll ever be, because it finds itself falling into the same problems, the same traps, and the same pitfalls that Doctor Who does. If you like this show, fine. All the power to you. I get jack shit from it. And if it weren't for the fact that I was doing this thing, I wouldn't be watching it. No way, shape or form would I be watching it. Because it has nothing going for it. It has no justifiable reason to exist. It's a real shame, because in the third, and to a certain degree the fourth episode, the show was starting to develop more of its kind of identity, its own authority, its own signature as to what it is and the angle that it was taking. But now, this episode especially, it's just Doctor Who, but slightly different. You could have rewritten this episode, take some of the characters out, add the Doctor into it, and you'd have a fairly average mid-series episode of Doctor Who. And that's all it ever would be. It would be an episode that be watched once in a series. People like me who do these vlogs would struggle to find anything worthwhile to say about it, and then it would be forgotten. It would just go on off into the annals of Doctor Who viewing, that maybe in 20 or 30 years, when we get the Blu-ray, the DVD box set, we watch it, we remember the episode, and then we go about the rest of our lives because we have no great feeling to it whatsoever. I'm just so fucking annoyed with this show. Next week's episode looks totally throwaway. It's an episode where everybody has to tell the truth. Everybody comes up to this alien rock that makes them say what they're really thinking and they're really feeling. You know what, maybe I'm being cynical, maybe it'd be a great episode, but the fact it's going to be the episode before the final two, which in all reality is probably going to be a two-parter, it's probably not, it's just going to be filler, effectively. It's going to be an episode that was written under the pretense of character development in a show in which character development really means nothing. But then with that said, next week maybe we'll get an episode which isn't intrinsically focused on just one singular character, and it's more about the ensemble themselves. Maybe not. I truly do not know. And to a certain degree, I really don't fucking care. This show, if it gets commissioned for a second series, which I'd be surprised, I'd have to think long and hard enough whether or not I was going to do a time shift of it. Of course, that depends how this series ends. Maybe all the characters I don't like will get killed off. Probably not, because this is Doctor Who. Characters are never killed off. They just go to a different place. And I hate that. I hate that so much, as it takes any kind of emotive impact from those moments and pisses them up the wall. But what did you think? What did you think about this week's episode of Class? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Message me and let me know what you think. I'm now going to have a lie down now and have a good long think about whether or not this show really is worth watching, even if you slightly like the first episode. Goodbye!